I am Brian English, forum name Hyperbytes, and we're now going to add the historic events to the website. So remember, we had our different page types. Our page type for historic events is H, and I've created this basic skeleton that we did in a previous video, which we're going to use as a basis for this. So first of all, we have the server connect, which gets all of the page data of page type H. We have our single page data API, which is not auto-loaded because we're going to be loading that from an event. Then we have a row in which we have a heading, and now we have a row within a column within a row, I should say. And what I'm going to do is, instead of using the bootstrap table generator, I'm going to use a repeat children row to be able to display the different listings. So I'm going to go to row. I want to convert it to a repeat children based on the expression of history. So we're going to use that query. And the unique key, it's important you set this, is the page content ID. Let's save that. And now we have our repeat in place. Column wise, I'm going to set this at 100%. So I'm going to at the moment have it called 12. So that's full width. And within that column, I'm going to simply add some text, paragraph text. And by assigning that a dynamic attribute, so a display in a text, because we're just using the titles, there's no embedded HTML, we can then just simply pick the title from our picker. And there we are, we see 3 events displayed. Kill the village associated villages, the history of Bellingham, and the legend of the Lang Pack. And we can, if we want, just make that a little more visible, maybe give it an H4, so that we have these events shown. Now we can spend a lot of time formatting these, changing fonts, changing colors, putting in spacings, lots of things like that. But if I was to do that on every page we repeated, then you get pretty bored. So I'm quite happy to just say to you, have a play with that. You can change all of your formatting, etc., as you want. Maybe put in some conditional CSS. But for the moment, that's our very basic page. If I just fire that up in the browser, we can see that we get exactly what we want. The different events. Sorry, the different historic events, or history, really it should be, rather than historic. History of the area probably be a better title. So what we're going to do with these then, if we click on that, we want to be able to open up some sort of display. So let's have a look at how we're going to do that. Well, I'm going to display this information in a modal again. I promise I will do other methods. So of course, first thing we need to do is actually create the modal. So as we did before, dynamic modal, we're going to call that modal history. And then we're going to fill in the appropriate bits from there. So let's now, so remove that button, let's immediately apply that coloration that we were looking at before. No, we've got that the wrong way around. Back color blue, front is white. And now we can look at populating that modal accordingly. So I'm just going to save that, and then from there we can look at how we're going to populate that modal. So this time we don't have a button to click, so we aren't able to link the event of the button click directly from the interface as we would from somewhere like here. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a click event to the column itself. So what we're going to do is we're going to say if they click the column, and say, remember my main purpose here is really to show you different techniques rather than to write the website. We'll click event. First thing we want to happen is we would like them to open that modal. So it's modal show. The next thing we need to do is we need to pull in that single record linked to the repeat value within that repeat that we're using. So we can select it from there. And now if we go into our modal, just to show you that it does work, I'm going to go to the heading and I'm just going to put the title as I did earlier into there. So it's inner text, and we're going to use the single data query title. I'm going to save that, and I'm hoping now that when I fire that up in the browser, as I click on each of the columns, we can see that it actually calls up that record and shows us the appropriate modal. And yeah, we could do a lot of cleaning up with this. This is very scrappy looking, but I'm teaching techniques. I'm not a massively good designer. I'm more of a technical person. So there we are. We've got this far. We've got our basic information. I'm just going to pop a container, row, column. I'll just drop that paragraph into the column rather than delete and recreate. And that paragraph we're going to, as we did before in our dynamic attributes display, we're going to do HTML this time because it's going to be the description, which has that embedded HTML potentially in it. Query, and we're going to be description. So basically we've done exactly the same as we did in the previous one, but just rather than doing it with a bootstrap table, we've done it in a repeat. And the reason I do that is that sometimes you can do an awful lot more and put an awful lot of extra things into a repeat that you can't do within a bootstrap table. So again, let's just fire that up. There we see we've got quite a lengthy description on that one. Not so long on that one, and this one. The important thing is we can see that from the heading we're getting the right one up each time. So we need to look at images as well, of course. So let's move on to images. Let's look at a different way of us displaying images, so you learn another technique here. Okay, so what are we going to do now? We're going to get those images in. I'm going to add another row after that, but in this case, rather than just going straight into a column, I want to make that a masonry expression, and the expression will be, of course, our single history data query images object. Our unique key within that will be our image ID, because each image has a unique ID. And now what we can do is we can just drop a column in there, and we can drop an image in, make it responsive and thumbnailed, because I like the thumbnail effect. And then the attributes, we're going to look at image source, and let's look at now uploads, page images, and now we're going to be talking about the page ID. Notice it's just taking that slash out again. Then we're going to add in full, and then last of all we're going to add in the image link. We'll just put that in completely the wrong place. Okay, so we seem to have that set up nicely. Let's just fire that up in the browser, and there we see that we have those images arranged in a masonry. And if you're not sure what a masonry is, basically what you'll find is that it will adjust the images around to try and make them like a jigsaw, to be able to fit them into a minimum amount of space possible, and to say it will actually reorder them if needs be to do that. So let's just quickly go back into that repeat. And just check everything is as it should be. Yep. Kind of thinking we should probably have a little bit of spacing in some of these columns here to make life easier, but I can leave that you to do that. So there we are. Basically, that's what very brief time we've produced a nice simple pop-up to show these different ones. What I'm going to look at next is to actually start using this repeating region rather than the bootstrap table, and I'm going to start looking at using bootstrap cards to be able to display the data. So I hope to see you in the next video.